Well, the first thing I always like to say to people when thinking about the definition of coaching is that there are in fact lots of different ways of defining it. Different people around the world, different contexts have different ways of thinking about the word coaching. And although sometimes you will find people talking about it with very distinct definitions, particularly in the space we're working with, and we have strong opinions about it, we would recommend quite strongly that you always think about, if you're working with somebody else and you're using the word coaching, checking in as to what they mean and what you mean. It's a really important way of just judging how you're going to work together. One way I try and remind myself of this is that I was once told by a friend, a delegate really, in a workshop, that in their own language they only had one word that described both the activities of coaching and mentoring. And yet we'd just been describing these as two very distinct and different things, because to most people in the Western world they are. So the important thing is to realise when you're using the word coaching, just check in with somebody. What are they expecting? How does that compare to what you're thinking? When we think about the definition of coaching, we start by saying it's a belief, it's an approach, it's an attitude. Of course there are a whole series of skills, and we'll come to talk about those, that come together to create this thing called coaching, but it starts with a belief. And remember, we're talking about coaching as a leadership skill, so something that you use in general when acting as a leader with other people in a team. You may be in the same team, or you may be leading a team, but essentially you're acting in a leadership role, and it's in that way we're thinking about coaching.
Many people come to coaching with a preconception drawn from sports. So they have in their mind a football team or a basketball team, and they imagine that the coach is teaching the players how to be better. Well, you'll notice that I've emphasised a word, teaching, because in our version of coaching we don't teach, we actually support somebody so that they find their own way forward, they find the best way for themselves. So it's a very different set of skills, and it's particularly a very different attitude. In particular, the attitude of not fixing is important. You'll find that when you work with somebody and you adopt a coaching mindset, one of the things that first happens is you hear their story about a difficulty at work or a problem they've got, or just something they want to think out loud about. And as soon as they've spoken for 30 seconds, what happens is our brain sparks into action, and we begin to think, we know, I had that, and we interrupt or we try and help them by telling them what we did. And that's absolutely not what we're trying to do when we're working as a coach.
So we start with the assumption that coaching is about a belief, an approach, an attitude. And that belief is that the person you're working with, usually called the coachee, has in fact got access to all of the best solutions, the most appropriate ways of moving forward for them. And that whilst you, when you're working with them, might have lots of ideas, they're your ideas. It's your way of doing something. The essence of coaching is helping somebody to identify what will work for them, what's most important for them. And I can honestly say that since becoming a coach, I've had amazing occasions when I've realised that a solution I thought was blindingly obvious is not the one that they wanted, and not the one that worked for them. That's the important point. And so holding back and helping them identify what works best for them is the crucial part of coaching.